What is up, guys? So today I'm going to be talking about harmony. I kind of went over kind of the intro on it on the last lesson. If you didn't see that, I recommend you do before watching this one, because we're going to use that information in this video. So this one is actually the intro into harmony itself. The last one I talked a little bit about the major scale and whatnot, and a few of you on Reddit thought that that was not an intro into harmony. But in this video, you're going to see why you're going to need to know all of that stuff that I talked about in the other one. And yeah, let's get right into this. I'm going to roll the intro and then let's go into the video. So today we're going to be talking about harmony. Last time I talked about how to harmonize the major scale. So that's kind of the intro into this one. The reason why I talked about it as harmony is because, well, it kind of is harmony, and it kind of is the first few things that you should know about harmony, because, well, harmony is basically when we start playing more than one note at the same time. So when we're playing just one note or one group of notes, we get a different set of melodies and we get a different set of intervals and whatnot. And when we're talking about harmony itself, we're talking about the combination of a few notes and what they create, basically. So it's kind of how things interact with each other. That's kind of what harmony is. So with that in mind, we need to know how to harmonize the major scale. And last time I talked about how to harmonize it and how to kind of build it in, groups of triads. And that's kind of what we're going to use in this one. So basically, let's start to get into the kind of the root of harmonizing and the root of how modern music is kind of harmonized. So what we start to analyze, so we have three different harmonic regions. One would be the tonic, we have the subdominant, and then we have the dominant region. So you could kind of summarize modern harmony, or at least up till one certain point, and then it kind of got messed up and got a lot of other complicated stuff added on top, but we're not gonna get into that point of history just yet. So we have, three regions that I mentioned. We have the tonic, subdominant, dominant. These would be basically the tonic, the one chord, then we have the four chord, which would be the subdominant, and then we have the dominant, which would be the five chord. So if we were to see this in the C major scale, we have C major, which is the 1, we have F, which is the 4, and then we have G, which is the 5. So that's kind of the three different groups, and that's kind of how you could basically summarize modern harmony. So you can, or at least, contemporary harmony. We have a C major chord, then it goes to an F, then it goes to a G, and that G resolves to the C. And of course, after that, we start adding more chords into that. So let's talk a bit about these few regions. I'm gonna drop them down below here, or rather here on my side. So the first group, which would be the tonic group, we would have the 1 chord, we would have the 3 chord, and then we would have the 6 chord. And if you notice something in there, yes, the 6th chord is the relative minor to the 1 chord. And when we start constructing them, we see a lot of notes that are similar between them, and they're all related to each other. So there's that. And then in the group of the subdominant, we have the 4th chord, which would be the F, and then we also have the 2 chord, which would be the D, D minor in this case. And then we have the dominant group, which would be the 5 chord, the G, and we also have the 7th chord, which would be the B minor 7 flat 5 if we start adding on top, or the B diminished triad. And yeah, that's basically where we start off. And then after that, we start to get into the more interesting part, which is starting to harmonize all of that. And when we have a C chord, we can maybe change it up for an A minor. So for example, we have a really popular song called Hallelujah, where we have a C, F, G, and then an A. I'm gonna read the lyrics, which I have here, so you guys can kind of hear, because it's kind of interesting the way that he plays with the lyrics and then the chords, which are basically doing what he's talking about in the lyrics. So it goes like this: the C, the 4th, which would be the F, the 5th, which would be the 5, and then a minor fall, which would be the A minor, and then a major lift, which would be the F. That's really kind of as literal as we can get with all of this. So yeah, that's kind of going into the literal use of how to start harmonizing and how to start using these other chords that are not the 1, 4, or 5. And of course we get the blues, we have the 1, the 4, and the 5, but in this case we're making them all dominant, and it makes sense. They're related chords. The dominant part is the interesting part, but I'll get to that later on another video. But yeah, so after, you know, we get the basic blues progression, which I'll put right here, so you guys can see it if you don't know it. That's the basic progression, and later on some, you know, bebop players start to really add harmony on top of that, where they start adding relative 5 chords or relative 2, 5, 1 chords, or, you know, they just start adding relative chords per chord instead of per tonality that we're in that particular chord. That's kind of a little bit more advanced, and I'll get to that in another video, but this one I wanted to make kind of an intro and a second part to the harmony video that I had already talked about in the other video, which was kind of about the major scale, as I already mentioned, and harmonizing it. And this one's kind of how we start to get it in place. So as I already mentioned, we can substitute the 1 chord for a 6 chord or for a 3, depending on where we are. We can also substitute the 5 for a 7, depending on the case and how we're using them. It's not, you know, we're not gonna always substitute them, and they're not always gonna make sense, but we can use them in different parts. And then, you know, we can add different chords that are related to each of the chords in there. So for example, if we, you know, going from an F and go from an F to an A minor, we could maybe use a B minor 7 flat 5, and then we can use a E7, and then after that E7 we go back to the A minor 7 or the A minor, just adding a 2 5 1 to that 6 chord. So it would be a 2/6 and then a 5/6 and then a 6 chord if we, you know, start analyzing with Roman numerals. And yeah, I hope it helps, and I'll be talking about this later on in other videos more in depth. I just kind of wanted to, you know, talk about this and whatnot, and I'll hopefully see you guys on the next one. Yeah, make sure to like down below, subscribe if you liked the video, and comment if you liked it and if you want to see other videos like this, and I'll see you guys on the next one.